Alright, today I'm going to be showing you how to make boilies, and the fact that it's very simple and that even you can do it at home with supermarket products or as expensive as you want. You don't have to go mad on it. You can literally pick up the parts and the bits that you need from the supermarket, and it's that simple. Right, first off, you don't need a ton of ingredients. You can quite simply make boilies with cornmeal, more maize flour. For example, I've got a big old bag of it right here, and semolina. If you put 50% cornmeal, 50% semolina, you will have a boilie. It is that simple. You add your eggs, which generally in a 1 kilo mix ranges from about 9 to 12 eggs, usually 9. Then after you've mixed your eggs, you add your flavouring. For example, I've got a mainline flavouring right here, which is shellfish, or you can have, for example, I picked up a bottle of dairy cream off eBay. This literally cost me £7 for 500 mils, and I used 10 mil of it, 20 mil of it if I'm reeling a bit, if I want it a bit more. But this smells lovely. But you don't have to buy mainline. You don't have to go on eBay and buy a big old bottle. You can literally use cake flavouring. So right here I've got some caramel or vanilla. Caramel and vanilla go very well together. You do have to use a larger dose of this. I generally use about 30 ml per flavouring when using these, but they do catch fish. I've had 27 pounder on literally vanilla and caramel with a bit of peanut. That is how simple it is. Well, today we are going to be making a boilie. We're going to be making a krill, a shellfish boilie, which is a lot more complicated than just a 50-50 base mix. But I'm going to go over right now what you can use, where you can pick them up. For example, this 1 kilo of cornmeal costs £1.50 at Asda. 15 eggs from Asda cost about £1.15. That's how cheap and easy you can make it. Example, in the boilie we're going to be making, Asda milk powder, £2. You really do not have to spend a lot. But on this one, this works out to about £6 a kilo, the one that we're going to be making. But I'll quickly go over everything and show you what we're going to be using. You can use this at home if you like. I don't care. Honestly, it catches fish, and if it's saving you money, that's all that matters. Right, we're going to quickly go over everything now. From what you've just seen from that short little clip right there is kind of a bulk of what you can use. It's just an example. You can use a lot more, trust me. If you really want to get deep into it, there's a hell of a lot more you can use. But we're sticking with simple right now. So basically what we're going to do, I'm going to start with a krill. Now, sticky krill is expensive in boilie making terms. You know, if you haven't got a problem spending £7-8 on this, you get 700 grams, 800 grams ish. But it is strong, and you generally only have to use about 100 grams of it per kilo. So when you think of it that way, this one little bag that's cost you $7.99 or $8.99, whatever it is, you're going to get 7 kilos of powder usage out of this one bag. So when you put it that way, it works out pretty well. But this krill is great in boilies, gives it a little colour. It's just an all-round good thing. But we're going to be using this later in the boilies that we make. And right, yeah, sticky krill, good. Next up, we have this little bag right here. Now, this little bag right here, all this is roasted peanuts that have been put through a blender. You know, your basic, your 85p bag from Tesco's, Asda, and that's all it is. It's literally just peanut. So basically what you do is you buy the roasted. It has to be roasted, not normal, because if you put normal through it, it'll go through into a mush. If you're going to get normal peanuts, then you'll have to roast them either in an oven or put them in a frying pan, and they stink, trust me, you don't want to do that. So it's just easier to buy roasted. Buy a couple of packets at like 85p, so it's less than a couple of quid. Put them through a blender and you got peanut meal. Now, peanut meal is great in boilies. You don't need a lot of it, and it absolutely stinks. And I mean, it absolutely reeks, so you don't need a lot of it in boilies. And you know, it's an all-round cheap thing that you can add into it. Obviously, make sure the venue you're fishing allows peanuts, but you know, that's your choice if you still choose to use it. Moving on to the main bulk powder. So this is maize meal or cornmeal, you know, same as this one that you can get from Asda or Tesco's, Sainsbury's. They're about £1.50 a bag for 1.5 kilos of this. This one right here that I have, I got this one from a garden centre that does different powders and stuff for horses and chickens, but they actually do different powders for fish as well. So I think I paid about £3 for 4 kilos of this stuff. But this will make up about 50% of your boilies, of your powder. You know, when you're making your mix, this will make up about 50% of it. So all this, you know, it's not high end the earth prices. Fish meal. Now, fish meal is expensive to a point. It's about £3 a kilo. I mean, you might be able to find it cheaper online, but I get, obviously, like again, I got this from Garden Centre. So this cost me £7 for a couple of kilos, but I don't use a lot of it because fish meal is strong. But we are making a fish meal based boilie, so I'll probably use. You'll see later on when we're making the boilie itself that this is strong. We don't use a lot of it, but again, when you put it to the, for example, say if we used 200 grams of fish meal in our base mix, then you think we've got 2 kilos of that there, so we'll be in 10 kilos worth of base mix out of 2 kilos, so it works out well. Next up, this is crushed oyster shell. Now you can pick this up pretty much anywhere that does bird food or etc, or like, you know, pet shops, garden centres. It's literally fine crushed oyster shell. Now I haven't got a kilo here obviously because I've been using it, but a kilo of this doesn't even cost a quid. I think I paid 80p for a kilo of this, and I'll use about 50 grams of it per kilo of base mix. Next up, Niger seeds. So what these are, basically, when you buy a boilie, for example CC Moore Live Systems, or you know, a fruity boilie, you'll see little black seeds. Well, this is what they are, and you can get this. I think I got this in B&M in their little bird food section, and it wasn't even a pound. I think it was like 79p for the bag. Let's put that back in there. I think it was about 79p for the bag, and you don't need a lot of them. You generally only use about 20 to 30 grams per mix. because you don't want a lot of it bulking it up. Otherwise, when you're rolling your boilies, they'll start flaking out and they'll start destroying them. But yeah, that is, again, cheap. You can get them at B&M's or garden centres, etc. Supermarkets, you can probably find that in anything that does like bird food. But they go great in fruity boilies, for example, the peanut one. If you put peanut meal and them in there with some caramel and vanilla, makes a great boilie. Now, milk powder's a bit of a funny one. Milk powder, this milk powder here comes from obviously Asda, as you can see. It's £2 for 340 grams. Now, you can get this cheaper online by the kilo. I think it works out about £5-6 a kilo online, obviously depending on postage. But if you're looking to, for example, for 300 grams of this will make me 2 kilos of base mix, which will make me about 3.5 kilos of boilies. So for £2, this whole tub basically, it's quick, easy pickup. You don't have to wait online, wait for it to come in. Yes, in the long run, it probably costs you a bit more. If you obviously want to go out now and you want to get boilies done, this is a great pickup. If you can wait and order it by a couple of kilo online, it would be better too. But this, for a couple of quid, you can't complain. This thing also is milk powder, does exactly the same. It's 500 grams in this one, and it's about £3.50 from Co-op. So it's a little bit bigger, it's a little bit more expensive, but if you want something quick and easy and build it, if you're going in a couple of days and you want to get ready and you just want to pick stuff up quick, they're great alternatives. Right, so now moving on to flavouring. As I said, if you want to use flavouring, you can use cake flavouring. So you got caramel, I've got vanilla, and I use these in some of the boilies sometimes. Caramel again, you can use almond. Almond is very strong, so you don't need a lot of it. With the cake flavourings, you generally want to use about 20 to 30 ml per kilo. But they do work. I've caught fish on these. I've caught plenty of fish on these, and they work perfectly fine. If you want to go more mainstream, you've got your mainline response flavours. Now, mainline response flavours are about £4.50 a bottle. You generally use about 10 ml per kilo. So this one bottle will get you through 6 kilos of base mix, which will make you, around 10 kilos of bait. Now you think that's not that bad really. Considering these are about £1.20, £1.30, and you'll probably go through a bottle through 2 kilos of them. This will go through 6 kilos of base mix, and it stinks, absolute stinks. And obviously you can, with mainline, there's plenty of different flavours, proven and tested. You can't really knock mainline's reputation. You can, however, on eBay, get 500 mils of highly concentrated flavouring, which is designed for fishing, from different companies. Obviously this is an unbranded company, and it's dairy cream flavour. Now this bottle cost me £7 for 500 mils. It does require about 20 ml per 1 kilo, but it's good and it's nice. It's good and it's nice. It's good and it works, and it smells lush once it's done. Now the last thing I generally add, and this is optional, you don't have to add this, is hemp oil. Now this one's obviously a chili hemp oil, and I've had this one for a while. But you can add oil to your to your egg mixture. Now what that does basically, it helps with the binding. When we're using fish meal, it generally creates quite a stiff mix, which makes it generally hard to roll. By adding a little bit of oil, like 10 ml of oil to your eggs, it makes it just that little bit softer and binds a little bit better. Basically, adding oil, it's like if you've got like a rusty handle and you put some oil on it and it frees up. It's exactly the kind of the same thing. It just makes it soft, makes it better. And personally, it's just personal preference at the end of the day. But yeah, this is just a small example of what you can use. You can use a hell of a lot more, and you can get creative. Once you've got like a basic thing going, you can get, like I say, you can be creative. You know, I mean, you've got cake flavorings. You can use strawberry, lemon, you know, vanilla, caramel, almond. You can use whatever you want. Experiment, play. But we are gonna get into mixing in just soon. I'm quickly going to go over the kind of equipment you'll probably need. Some of it is optional. Obviously, you can hand roll it. But if you're going to be making it by the kilo, I would recommend looking into getting these next things that I'm going to show you, because it will make your life a hell of a lot easier. Okay, so now we're going to move on to what kind of equipment you're going to need if you're going to bulk it. Basically, if you're going to do kilos at a time, this is the kind of thing you're going to generally want to need. You can, if you're going to do like 100 kilos, bloody hell, if you're going to do like 100 gram mix, generally you can roll them by hand. Now, the first thing that you're obviously going to need is a notepad. Now, that sounds stupid, but using a notepad to keep basically a record of what you've used when you're making your boilies. So you can either follow this example, or you can, you know, once you're done, you can follow your own. But if you keep it on record, next time you go around to making it, say you made caramel vanilla boilie, you took it out to your local lake, and you know it worked, so you want to make it again, and then you've got a record of that. So having a little notebook or some kind of record is quite vital. Next thing obviously you're going to need is a mixing bowl. Now you can use anything. This is basically a bowl off an old mixer, because I had a mixer and it broke. Can't really do much about that, but you know, I can still use the bowl, so it's perfect for mixing up my boilies. Next thing you're going to need is rolling boards. Now this one is the Gardner XL Master one. You can do 3 strips of boilies or 4 strips of boilies on this, and you'll get a kilo done a lot quicker. You can buy these little ones, and it will do the same job. It will just take you a little bit longer, but it will make your life easier, trust me. Next thing you need really is a boilie gun. So you load your paste into there, it rolls out into sausages onto your board, you put your sheet down, you rock it back and forth, then you get your boilies. Next thing is optional. Since my mixer broke, basically picked this up from Asda. It's £6. Does a really good job of mixing everything up, getting the egg mixture in. But like I say, you don't need that. You can use a fork, or you know, a long. If you've got something long, you can use that. Anything to mix it up together. You really don't need a lot, but like I say, this is optional. You don't really need this, but I would recommend getting at least the rolling kit, and I would recommend getting your own bowl, because your missus will kill you if you use boilies mixture in a mixing bowl. But yeah, that's basically the equipment we are going to be using. One other thing, obviously I haven't got it out, I should have done really, but you will need some weighing scales, obviously, to weigh out your powder, make the mixture proper, and that's about it for equipment really. Okay, So we're going to go on to the main shellfish and krill boilie now. What we're going to be using for this: sticky krill, fish meal, oyster shells, milk powder, maize, flour, chili oil, chili hemp oil, and the mainline shellfish. We'll get to the eggs once we've mixed up the base mix, and now I'm going to show you how to do that now. Right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to make the base mix ready for the boilies. So we've got the weigh scales. Make sure you turn them on, put your bowl or whatever you're using on there, and zero it. So now it says 0. So we're going to make 1 kilo of base mix. So what we're going to start with is we're going to start with our main powder, which is maize meal. And what we're going to use for this is 450 grams of this. So we're going to weigh out 450. There we go. Just a little bit more. There we go. It's 451. Doesn't matter if it's a 1 or 2 over. You're not going to notice it. So we now have 450 grams of maize meal as our base. We're now going to put the fish meal in. And we're going to put 200 in there. Right, so we're now going to put the fish meal in, and for this we're going to put 200 grams in here. Now this is a heavy powder, so it won't look like a lot. We just put a little bit too much in there, so we're just going to take a little bit out, sprinkle in what we need. There we go. So we're now up to 650 grams. What we're going to add next is the krill powder. Now we're only going to add 100 grams of krill powder. Like I said, this stuff is strong, so we don't need overly loads. This is a brand new packet. Went through the other packet. There we go. So this is what the krill powder looks like. Well, we only need 100 grams of this, so this will take it to 750. $7.52. So it's a little bit over. Like I said, nothing major. Next in, we're going to put 200 grams even, sorry, of milk powder in. Now milk powder is a great protein. So this will take us up to 950. A little bit over, but it's not a big deal. Next, we're going to add 50 grams of the shell. So this will basically give it a little bit of crunch, a little bit of texture, just to break everything up a little bit. Now this stuff is heavy, so it won't look like you're putting in a lot. But there'll be, trust me, there'll be plenty in there. Just going to put a little bit more in. Just a little bit over, there we go. So we now have our 1 kilo or 1,000 grams of base mix. Now, what we want to do with that is it's all compiled into different layers. What we want to do is we want to mix it all up. What you want to do is get a bag, something like this, or even a carrier bag will do. Empty the contents into that bag. Make sure it all go in there. I mean, there's a little bit of powder in there, and that's fine. Get rid of that for the moment. Even it out. Make a little hole. Fill it up with air. Give it a good twist. So you've got plenty of air in there. Then give it a good shake. So mix up all the powder. Put it back, empty it back into the bowl, and there we have a kilo of our base mix. Okay, so now we come to the egg part. So I have 15 eggs as the smart price. They're not free range. Some people say free. Do you see free range because you get fresher boilie? Personally, in my experience, I've literally seen no difference between them with where I use free range or normal. They literally all catch the same. So for this mix, we're going to be using 12 eggs. So there's 15 in here. They cost about £1.14, £1.15, something like that. And we're going to be using 12 of them, and we're going to crack them in there. So we're going to get on with that. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. Just whack them and put them in. Whack them, put them in. We're going to be mixing it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Just like baking a cake. Except this cake's going to stink. And it's not going to smell very nice. Smell of fish, krill, and rank. Just what the carp like. Oh, and that will go. Right, that's our 12 eggs. rid of these ones. Okay. Here's a quick tip. If you don't have oyster shell and you can't find it, take the eggshells that you just cracked and use for this. So you got 12 eggshells, shove them in a blender, blend them up into like fine, crisps exactly like the oyster shells, and add them into your mix instead. I sometimes actually add these as well as the oyster shell, and they give it like a pink kind of hue to the bait. Get like pink and white sparkles. But eggshell again is another good thing you can use. You can basically, when we're making this, you don't have to waste everything. You don't have to throw these away. You can blend them up. So that's a little good tip for you there. I'm just going to get rid of these eggshells because we're not going to blend them today, because it's like 11 o'clock at night and I think the neighbours might kill me, but I am going to use a whisk, so get fucked. Okay, so we've got our eggs and they've all been cracked, so what we're going to do now is we're going to whisk them. So what this will do will break the eggs up, it'll mix them up, and you won't get that fine lumps. You can do this with a fork, obviously, but I'm lazy, so I'm going to do it like this. They'll go like a light yellow once they're all done. So they're all nice and blended now. And what we're going to do now is we're going to add our flavourings. So first I'm going to add chili hemp oil. Now you only want to use about 10 to 15, 20 mil of this. I'm just going to kind of eyeball it because I've been doing this a long time now. And then for this I am going to be a bit specific. So we want to use 10 mil of this, and all I'm going to use for this, and I'm sure a lot of you will have these, it's just a little Nurofen syringe. It's just an old one out of a fucking cow pole, kids medicine, and it works a treat for this. So we're just going to add 10 mil of it, and it absolutely freaking reeks. So that's 5 mil. Mil. Now I will warn you, if you're following this recipe, do it when your missus is out, because she will kill you. Because it stinks. Or do it outside in your shed if you've got one. I don't have that luxury. But now we're going to mix in the flavouring, and we're going to mix in the oil. Just give it a quick whisk of that. Ooh, that stinker. Right, so generally now that's ready to go. You can start adding this to your base mix, which we're going to do now in the next moment. Don't know why I dragged that one out, but generally what I like to do now is to let that sit for about 5 minutes. Let that, make sure no oil comes to the top or anything. You don't have to, you can add it straight away. It's just something I like doing, it's just personal choice. But I'm going to let this sit for 5 minutes, and then we'll start adding it to the base mix. Okay, so we've got a base mix, we've got our egg mixture. Now this is a bit fuller than what you saw it, because I've added another 12 eggs to it, because I'm actually going to be making 2 kilos up for myself. So I've got a trip coming up, So I'm going to make I'm making an extra 2, but for this demonstration purpose only, we're making a kilo here. What we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to make a little hole in the middle. You see a little hole there. We're going to start adding our egg mixture a little bit at a time. We're going to give it good top to bottom. Sorry. A good mixture. And then we're going to make another well. We're going to add some more. And we're going to mix that in. We're going to keep going until it starts forming into a ball. We're just going to keep mixing it. So I like to give it a mix with the hand as well, get all the loose powders up the bottom. Then we add some more mixture. Now it's going to get messy, so you're going to get your hands messy a lot, but trust me, it's worth it. When you get a catch on your own boilies, it's much better than catching on something you bought from the shop. Like I said, you don't have to use this, you can use a fork. This is just kind of an extra. Like I say, I only spent £6 on that thing, and it's purely for the use of this. And this doesn't take long. It will clump up eventually, like quite quickly. So at this point, it's starting to clump together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a bit more egg, and then we shouldn't really need much more. And what I'm going to do is work it with my hands. Get all the powder from the bottom, and start working it into like a ball dough. You will get sticky hands and it will stink, but trust me, it's worth it. And add a little bit more egg. You just got to keep working it until it goes and forms into a ball. This is where a mixer's a lot easier, because obviously you've got the mixing dough hook thing, but you can do it by hand, and as you can see, I'm doing it by hand. And eventually you will get a ball. Just got to keep working it. It's going to be sticky, it's going to be rank, it's going to feel horrible, but there we go. Starting to go into a ball now. So you can see we're starting to get a ball. Make sure you get as much as you can off your hands, obviously, because all this is your boilies at the end of the day. So you want as much in there, really. Now, I've put a little bit too much egg in this, and don't panic if you do this, because there's a way to counteract it. Right, just leave that there. So if you get to this point, you know your hands are sticky, you've made a ball, but it's a bit tacky, it's a bit sticky. All you need to do is get some maize flour, cornmeal, and just drizzle it over a little bit at a time, and work it into the mix. So you don't get that stickiness no more. So at this point it's got flour on it, and now's a good time to now get as much as you can off your hands. You won't get every single little drop off, well, I mean you could if you wanted to, but you know, who could be asked of that? So you just want as much as you can off. It's a little bit sticky. You know, work it in. This will take a little while, so don't think you're losing an endless battle, because you're not. So add a little bit more. You don't need loads, you just need a light covering. This will get it. As soon as you put it on top, flip it over, keep flipping it, cover the whole top, and then work it into it. It's quite a sticky mix anyway, so it'll always be a little bit sticky. You don't want to put too much in and dry it out. If you do end up doing that, just add another egg. You can counteract it. What you want is a nice non-sticky ball. It's a work ball, because if it sticks too much when you're using your rolling board, it will stick to the board, and that'd be a bit of a nightmare. It's alright, so almost there now. I'm going to try and get as much off as I can with my hands. Just work that in. And voila, we have our dough ball. What I'm going to do now, with the added egg, I'm going to weigh the dough ball. So we started off with 1,000 grams of base mix. Then we added the egg and the flavouring. So we should end up with about 1.3, 1.4 or a bit more of the dough ball. 1.5, so we have 1.5 kilos of dough from adding the eggs and the base mix together. So what we added all together, we're now going to make 1.5 kilos of bait. We're going to lose some of that obviously when we boil it, so you end up with about 1.4 kilos of boilies from a kilo of base mix plus the eggs, and this is what we end up with. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to let this sit to bind a bit, no more than a couple of minutes. Then I'm going to put it, and then I'll show you the next step, and we'll get rolling. Okay, so we've got our kilo dough that we mixed up. What I like to do now is I like to split it up into 4 different chunks. Doesn't really matter about size or anything like that. Just break it up into 4 bits. Get a Ziploc bag or a sandwich bag will do it. But I will put these in here. We'll zip up about 3/4 of the way, push any air out, and what I will do with this now is I will put this in the fridge, and I will leave this in the fridge for about 5-10 minutes. You don't have to do this, but I like to let the flavour and the egg absorb into the dough. So I'll do this, I'll put it in the fridge, and while I'm doing that I'll get everything ready that I need to start rolling, with the rolling boards, the boilie gun, etc. So I'll get that done now. Okay, so I've taken one of the balls out of the fridge. This is the ball right here. All we're going to do is we'll put it in the boilie gun. I'm just going to make it into a sausage, basically enough to fit into the gun. So just give it a squeeze. Looks like a giant turd. We put it into the gun. Load the gun up. And then what we're going to do is we're going to keep squeezing the trigger with your finger over the top, just so it tightens up. So we're going to get the air out. Once you feel it coming through, just lift your finger a little bit, press the clip, and it's ready to go. Now what I like doing, you don't have to do this, but I find it easier, is I like to put a bit of cornmeal, because I'm putting the boilies on this little white board. So I'm putting a bit of cornmeal on there, and I like putting a bit on the rolling board. This just stops it from sticking. You don't have to do this, but I like doing it. It just makes life easier. Now what we're going to do is we're going to sausage out. We're going to gun out the sausage. It's going to be a test one. See how well they roll. Doesn't matter if they break off. What we do, put it in there, put the top on, and push down, and we're going to roll. Doesn't need a lot, and there you have it. Boilies are ready to go. Now you're going to get some that don't roll. What you got to do with that, just squish them up, put them to one side. When you put your next lot in, you just put it in the gun. Yeah, these are all ready to go. These look like these are rolling well. So let's get these rolling. Okay, that's the original 1.5 kilos that we made all rolled. I'm now going to roll another 1.5 kilos, and then we'll get on to the boiling process.
And now I know paradise. Time marches on, never ending. Time keeps its own time. Where do we go from here? Time ain't nothing but time. So tell me, how do you do?
Okay, so that's 3 kilos of bait was been rolled. Now I am knackered. It's taken me not even half an hour to roll all of that. So we're now going to move on to the boiling process and get these done, and then we just leave them out to dry. Alright, I'll see you in a minute. Okay, you're going to have to forgive the bad audio because I'm not near my mic anymore. But we're now at the boiling process. What you need is a trusty spoon to get them out. And if you've got one, a spod spoon, or like I use this to fill up my spod. These are really handy. So what you want to do, I've got all my boilies here at the left here, ready to go. We just fill it up. Got to make sure the water is boiling, obviously, when you put these in. So it's been boiling for a little while now, so it can keep the heat. And we just literally load up this base spoon. And then we just slowly plop them in. Now they're going to take about a minute to cook. You'll know when they're done because they'll start floating. But while you're doing that, you can get your next spoon loaded up. So my next spoon is ready to go. Take your trusty spoon, just give it a stir. Make sure none of the boilies are sticking together. And then we just wait for them to start floating. So you see now they're starting to raise up to the top now. We'll give it a little bit longer. We just want them all to start floating to the top. So most of them come to the top now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take it off the heat. And we should see them floating on the top. So they're ready now. What we're going to do from here is we're going to transfer them over. I'm going to move this back a bit. Hey! So I've got an old towel here ready. What we're going to do is just spoon them out, give them a shake, and apply them to the towel. We're going to do that for all 3 kilo. Yeah. It's that simple. Right, I'll come back to you. Alright, that's everything. Boilies are boiled. I'm now going to leave them for about a day, and then I'll pack them up in Ziploc bags and I'll put them in the freezer, and they'll be ready to go for when I need to go on the session. So I hope this was helpful for you. Hopefully the step-by-step was nice and simple, just to show just how easy it is to make boilies. Bit of time and effort. Take you, a couple of hours. You can knock up 3, 4, 5 kilo depending on how fast you are. But if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. And that's about it. If this did help, throw a like on the video, and hopefully see you again soon.